Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Jack of All Trades. I'm your host, Jack Allen. And after being cooped up for a couple years, I think we have a terrific show for you today. We're here with Cindy Carfagno. She's a local travel agent, and we're going to talk about travel. I mean, how it's been, how she sees where it's going, what's out there for the people. So, Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate you thinking about me and having this show for me because it has been a tough 2 years for everybody.
I would imagine. So realizing that the COVID certainly was a factor, how much did it affect the whole travel industry?
Oh, it affected drastically. You know, as we all know, the cruising industry was definitely affected.
Right.
But the hotels were, the resorts, a lot of vendors have not made it through these last 2 years. You know, surprisingly enough, the cruise lines have. Okay, yeah. Yes, they have made it through. And of course, they have some pretty strict protocols as people, you know, that's another discussion, but
right.
it's almost the thing that has to be at this point for them to remain in business.
Right.
Business is business too. But I saw many vendors, hotels, that have sold out to other hotel chains because they just couldn't make it, or they couldn't adjust their protocols, like their ventilation systems in the hotels, the resorts. Yeah. And that, you know, that's become a problem. And then on top of that, as I always tell people, there's the, you know, testing. So a lot of the hotels didn't want to be involved with providing testing for people to leave the resort to come back to the United States. To get back in, you have to have a negative test.
Right, right.
So a lot of the hotels said, especially in the Caribbean islands and down there, they just said, we can't afford, you know.
So did you find if anyone were traveling at all, they changed their habits to maybe they stay closer to home and, you know, within a couple 100-mile radius?
Oh, yes. That's actually, Jack, why I got into, you know, started doing senior bus trips. So I do senior bus trips in and around our local area, you know, day trips or overnight trips. And then, you know, I transitioned back into the cruising and the other, you know, vacations. But then the buses were affected by COVID too, as we all know. So that stopped. But there's so many different types of vacations, Jack, that people don't really understand, from the bus trips, you know, that fit certain people, all the way up to cruises, trains, you know, through the Rocky Mountains.
Right.
People that want to stay in the United States. Okay, I started doing river boats in the United States, which is a really big thing. The Delta Queen, of course, the Mississippi. I had Civil War reenactors that got together, like 12 of them, and they went on from Mississippi, down the Mississippi River, Vicksburg, you know, because it was into the Civil War, and they got to experience the Civil War. So I did that this year, and the riverboats have been pretty successful at keeping their numbers at nothing almost. So whether it's here,
those ships are a lot smaller.
They're smaller, yeah. But that's what people are tending towards now. If they're saying, you know, a cruise is not always for everybody, and I understand that. I'm nuts about cruising, but I had to learn and adjust to do a lot more than that, because a cruise is not for everybody, as I say. But the truth of it is, they get into river boats and other stuff, and those people love the river boats, Jack, but they won't go on the ocean liner, but they'll go on a river boat.
They want to make sure that they can see that shoreline.
Or they're more into, I found when I think of myself as a matchmaker, like for vacations.
Sure.
So when I sit down with people, I get very passionate, as I told you, because it becomes an issue, I think, where you have to help these people along with deciding whether or not, would a riverboat be all right for me? If you like resorts, then you go down, you're right in the town, or you get to go into town and see, because that's a big thing. People don't like the ocean liners because they say they're not in towns, or they don't get into town. So when everything went to the United States and people started saying, okay, we'll travel in the United States, of course that then went down too. But we did the parks, we did the riverboats, we did down the West Coast from Seattle down to Tijuana, or San Diego.
So there was the domestic travel.
There was domestic travel.
Wasn't affected as much, obviously.
It really wasn't. It wasn't, although they had to put the riverboats and the people in the United States, they had to get protocols in place.
Sure.
So the companies that remained were the companies that could turn it around fast and do that. And that's their business. So they figured if they're going to stay in business, we got to do that. We got to adjust. And of course, it's like that, I think, in any business. Sometimes
Right.
you do have to adjust. And this happened, so everything had to adjust.
Well,
so
there certainly were a lot of changes that needed to be made, from, like you said, ventilation. To everything.
Definitely. I just had somebody last week, not to get in a personal story, but they actually texted me, and they were on the Odyssey of the Seas, the Royal Caribbean Odyssey, and she said to me, "This is the best thing we have ever done." And I said, "Becky, why? Tell me why. When you get a chance, let me know why."
Absolutely.
And she said, "The reason is there's like 50% of the people that would normally be on this ship, maybe 60%. She said, we're all vaccinated. The crew wears their masks, but we do not have to wear our masks, except they ask when we're in elevators to wear our masks, for our own safety's sake or whatever."
Yeah.
But she said, "This has just been the best thing I've ever." And then I heard from another one this week, Monday. He called me, actually. He said, "This is great." He's on a 12-dayer.
Yeah.
So I think what you're seeing is, and what I'm hearing through CLIA, the Cruise Line International Association, that, the numbers have been very low. Even though there have been some cases, there's been no hospitalizations and there's been no deaths. So I guess they're sticking with their COVID protocols for now.
Right.
And of course, the cruise lines and a lot of the hotels, I only deal with vendors, seriously, that I knew, and this taught me a lesson. I didn't get burnt on it, so thank you, but this taught me a lesson, that you better deal with people that have been around or whatever. Because when it came to COVID and everything had to shut down, Jack, it was like, I don't know if you heard horror stories, but I sure did, about they wouldn't give me my money back. I had to fight with them, they wouldn't even give me, a future use. I don't use anybody that,
Yeah.
And so I didn't have that, thank you, Lord, as I say, I didn't have that
Well,
problem.
we were actually going on the Symphony of the Seas in beginning of November, and they never canceled it, but of course they cut back the number of people, which I thought would have been great. But most of our group said, look, they just didn't feel comfortable going.
Right.
So we didn't go. But even going back to Royal Caribbean, I mean, they couldn't have been nicer. It's like, we'll give you your money back, we'll do whatever you want. If there was a drink package involved, they gave you credit for that right away. So they
your
knew that that's
excursions,
what they had to
anything
do.
like that, yeah. They knew that's what they had to do, and as many hours, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of travel agents, as many hours as we spent back in March, April, May, June, on the phone, and I mean from 8:30 in the morning until sometimes 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night, making sure these people, got their future cruise, or they were in line to get it, or got their money back. I mean, Jack, I lost $150,000 of travel.
Sure.
In beginning in March of 2020, and I had just got back from a cruise on the Brilliance of the Seas, where we went to the Mardi Gras. So I was at the Mardi Gras, and the Zulu parade too, where 70 people got real sick. I was at that parade. Nobody got sick on our ship. Nobody, they did contact tracing, but. And I have to say that it's just been a whirlwind, but what a lesson to learn. You got to take that, I say, seriously, and turn it around. And that's what I tell people. You got to turn it around. I understand how some people feel, but I'm seeing more people coming out. It's like that commercial on TV where the lady's pounding on the meat. I don't know if you've seen that, where she's, nobody's going to stop me from going on vacation. And I said, I laugh every time I see that, and I say, that's me at this point too. I'm used to going.
I'm sure that's with a lot of people. And I mean, obviously we can't predict the future. We don't know what's going on. But do you think we've finally turned that corner to getting people back out there?
I think so. I think that, from what I hear, and it's just hearing and taking a little pull, my own little pull through my clients or people that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people that tell me about, everybody wants to tell you about their travel, or good or bad, and that's fine. I learn from it. But I think that people have had it. It's like, this is something I think, people have said to me, I think we're going to have to live with it. And I think that anybody that's, a good vendor or wants to stay in business, they are quickly adjusting to whether it be taking this off and adding this on, as a protocol. I think that's, something that's going to, I think that people are getting used to it. They're seeing more. Like I said, they're seeing more people booking, Jack. I can't tell you how many people I see, when I get into my GDS and I look down and I say, geez, this ship is almost full at the 50 or 60%.
Yeah.
And it just came out. And we're talking about even 2023. So we're even seeing
So they're
more
that
for
far
2000.
out.
Oh, yeah. They're all the way out. Some of them are all the way out to 2024. Yeah,
So-
Princess and that. So, yeah, it's,
Now that's so, the cruising we've talked a little bit about. How about the other than Florida, popular destinations that people are really wanting to go to now?
Well, you have the parks, the national parks in the United States, as I said. Everybody likes that. So I have vendors that are what I would call budget priced, budget minded, all the way up to premier, okay? And people ask me, well, what's the difference in the real difference? Tell me the truth. Well, the real difference is where you're staying and, how large the group is that you're with, when you're in the United States. Whether you're doing it, whether you're flying into Denver or, Salt Lake City and doing the parks, or flying into Las Vegas and doing the parks are a big thing, the national parks.
Okay.
Big thing right now. I think I've had a lot of people call about, since Canada opened up, the Rocky Mountaineer trains. And I have a lot of people that ask about trains just in general, taking a train up to Boston and possibly jumping on for Canada, New England, driving up. I have vendors that do driving vacations too. So I get them to Boston or wherever they're going to, the city, and they get the maps, they get the car, everything, and they're checked on at their hotels. So there is things like that too. So people that don't want to necessarily fly, are afraid to fly, don't really want to take a bus. They want more of a relaxed atmosphere, with their own vacation, but they want some sort of guidance,
Yeah.
That's what, I have a
Well,
vendor that does that, and it's terrific for people, now. I mean, people are,
Well, because they could be certainly in a small group, 4 in a car or whatever, and just do
even
whatever.
themselves, yeah, because they've got the map. They're mapped out. They know where they're to be at 6 o'clock or whatever, and somebody's there to check with them. Check in from the vendor. Globus monograms, they do that stuff all the time. There's a lot of things that I tell people, don't get jimmied into a corner, because there's a lot of things that you can do.
I mean, like you mentioned at the beginning about riverboats, and now you're talking about trains. It's like the mindset has always been, well, cruising
Right,
was
cruising.
big, or everyone's going
we're
to
gonna fly.
Disney,
Yeah,
or they're
Disney.
going to Universal.
Yes.
But nobody thinks of the park. So what do you think another trend that's coming up, like a train, and what do you think's going to keep growing?
You know what? I think the United States, locally, when I say local, in our continental United States, I hope that we can see some of the Caribbean, like Puerto Rico and that, picking back up again, although they claim they are. St. Thomas, those, they're U.S. Virgin Islands, so people feel fairly comfortable going there. Jack, I don't know. I think cruises will pick back up again. I think this year it'll still be at the 50, 60%. I think they'll still take it a little bit slower.
Yeah.
But I've found skis, ski resorts out in Vail. People are calling on that. I'm telling you, Jack, the destination weddings are crazy this year. People put off their weddings.
Yeah.
That's another thing. So, whether they want to go to Jamaica, with Jamaica opening up now, to us, they go down there for their destination wedding, or they go out to Vail, or they go. I've had places to Seattle, Vancouver. It's still staying local. I've had quite a few Hawaiis too, I must admit.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether they go on the cruise ship or they go through Disney, to the Disney resort out there in Hawaii,
Sure.
or to the Hyatt, which is nice too, in Hawaii. So I've had a lot of people inquiring. I just find that more people are saying, I want to do this. I'll do my cruise, or whatever. Some people aren't vaccinated, so of course they're not. So they're
Right.
they're a little angry. I want to get on that cruise ship, but they're not going to let me. And they're not. Okay, they're just not going to, because it would ruin their business if the minute that somebody got sick, and that was it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure they think about that daily. It's like,
Yeah.
if something happens,
Definitely.
we still have to hold it to a minimum. The protocols have to be here.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, the resorts, though, like I tell people, you know what? You still need your COVID test, to go to a lot of these resorts, whether it's out of the country or whatever. They're still requiring it. A lot of the resorts are giving you testing before you come back into the country, like in the Caribbean. They'll give it to you as part of their, package. So, I mean, they are adjusting in that respect. But, I find that it's, there's a lot of different types of vacations that people say to me, I want this or I want that. I used to do this, I used to do that, but I'm going to wait till maybe 23. Alaska's the perfect, Alaska is our country, of course, but, what a big season, what a big ticket, that whole thing is. That's a niche cruise, and, they, of course, been hurt very drastically, but I think they're picking back up again now, for bookings for starting in May, because the Alaska season really runs May, June, July, August.
And then it snows.
And then it snows. Well, it rains first, but then it snows.
Well, that's true.
First there's bugs, and then, there's different. I've been to Alaska 5 times. I think it's most beautiful. I do.
A friend of mine went on a cruise up there, and her and her husband, they had never, I don't know if they've been on a cruise before, but they weren't expecting that. They weren't expecting to open their door and have to put a winter coat on. It's like, well, that's, it's not down.
You layer. I tell people you have to layer. Don't bring your winter coat. Just layer. So as the day goes on, you can take off that, and you still have your vest on or whatever. If you have arthritis or your hands get cold easy, bring gloves. Just a light pair of gloves. That's what I tell people to do. But I've done cruises, and I've done land with Alaska too. I've done all of Canada over into Alaska, up to the North Pole.
Yeah.
So I was at the top of the world. It is cold up there, even in July.
I don't even want to think about that.
But I mean, people have said to me, "Oh, I want to do land, and I want to make sure I get up to the North Pole."
Yeah.
And you always make a joke. Oh, you want to see Santa Claus? But no, they want to get up to the North Pole. They want to say that they were, at the top. I always thought they wanted to see the Northern Lights, Jack. That's what I thought. But most people don't say that. They don't say no.
They just want to see how
they
far
just want to
north
see
they
how
can go.
far north they can go. That's true. Yeah. So I'm good. I think we're going to see a lot of Hawaii. I think we're going to see a lot of Alaska. I think coming up, definitely the parks. Like I keep saying, the parks have been a real big thing. I think maybe in the fall we'll see some Canada, New England's. I already had people, say they wanted to drive up and see, all the way up to Maine or whatever. Can I handle that? Well, I can handle anything. Okay, I can handle that. I can customize it because, Jack, in my life I've been very fortunate, to travel a lot, and I've been to over 100 countries and many more cities, throughout the world. So from New Zealand, I have people interested in New Zealand still. I have people, even with COVID, it's still, World War II veteran. I have a World War II veteran group that, wanted to, even Vietnam, Korea. They want to go into Japan and over into Thailand and that. It's very interesting. You get involved with some of these groups. There's so many niches and so many different, different ways. So I've been very fortunate because I can talk about a lot of the places that I've been to and help people with, here's something cool you can do, that you wouldn't do.
That interests me that you'd mentioned a couple times on the road trips. So if I were to say, Cindy, I'm going to go fall foliage, and I want to go up to Maine, you can actually plot out from here up to Portland or whatever.
With maps and even if you want people to check where to stay. And they'll check in on you to make sure you don't have any problems, any issues or whatever. It's
because I think a lot of
that's
times,
something a lot of times agents don't know anything about.
Well, I wouldn't even think of that because it was like if I were going to Portland, I'd say, okay, I can make 6
Right.
hours and I'll
Right.
stay somewhere in
Or
New
you get
York.
you get your little book and or whatever. Yeah, I know.
is so
No, this
small
is the
print.
mapping. This is telling you what you're going to run, what you're going to come into, where things are along the way that you might want to stop at. If you don't want to stop at, you don't have to. So it points out the interesting points. People, like I said, are not all cruise people. So you had to adjust. You have to understand when somebody says, "Well, Sin, I don't want cruises." Well, you're not hurting my feelings. That's your
that's your
budget,
niche.
it's your money, it's your choice. But there's so much more,
Well,
that you
that's
can do.
just it. It seems like the cruise is probably the cheapest way you could ever go.
You have to sit down with people and you have to say, okay, if you want, because the hotels in Disney, the hotels in Legoland, it's become a big thing. Legos, okay, let's get to Legoland. $1,000 a night for 4 people. I tell people, if you've been on a cruise and you like it, go on that cruise, go to the places that you like, experience those and see if you want to go back by land even and stay there. And that can help you a lot. But then there's people that say, no, I don't want to cruise at all. Okay, so then let's turn you to, based on your budget, what
Right.
you can. But hotels are, cruises are better buy even still now than the hotels, because now the cruises are adding the beverage packages, everything. A lot of
Yeah.
Celebrity has always, everything's included: Wi-Fi, beverage packet, surfing, even streaming. And it's crazy, Jack. It's,
Well,
they just kind of like threw
we
it all
actually
in.
lucked it out a couple of years ago. We were one of the last cruises to go to Cuba,
Yes.
which was interesting. But I enjoy it, but I also enjoy going to different places,
Yeah.
seeing different things.
Oh, sure. A lot of people do. And that's a balance. To me, that's a balance. And I like that balance idea. I like cruises. I like, going to the beach, or if I want to just sprawl out, I would love to go to a spa vacation, But again, Jack, I think that's just it's just, people have to understand the hotels have been hurt and they're really trying to make it, even down in Fort Lauderdale. I read the blogs all the time, and people were saying on the blogs, I can't believe it. Does anybody have any hotel for January that down in Fort Lauderdale that I can go to that I'm not going to spend $400 for a night?
That's Margaritaville.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So it is, it's something to think about. But again, you come into, I think if I have people that I know want something, then I start to look at alternatives to that that might satisfy them, seriously, and their budget.
Okay.
It's all a budget. So you need, it's not all about, this is the top dollar and you're going to pay this top dollar. Maybe there are other alternatives, and I have found other alternatives, seriously. So for people that didn't break their pocketbooks, but it's hopefully that will adjust. Hopefully that will adjust, because people aren't going to be able to.
Well,
you got 2 kids and you're going to Disney, and it's.
yeah. As soon as you save up for it, the price goes up, and
price
you have
goes
to
up.
start saving again. So,
Right.
Well, I appreciate the information that you're giving us on the travel industry as in itself. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in the business, where you're located.
I started out with a cruise agency. I didn't start out as my own. I started out with a cruise agency. So I actually talked them into hiring me. Let me learn, because I had retired. And I said, let me learn. And they were just great. And they retired, so I took the business.
Okay.
And that's how I built that business.
And where are you
seriously.
located at?
I'm on Caswell Drive. I'm over 2323 Caswell Drive,
Okay.
Bethel. So, yes, 412-831-1913. I have my cards here, so I told Dave, just to scan them or whatever.
We'll let people know, because we've been doing this show for quite a few years, and it was like, this is interesting to me, the travel, especially since no one's really been doing it, and now they're starting to come
right.
back in, and just to see what's available.
Well, Jack, I have a degree in nursing. Okay, and I have a degree in teaching, special ed too. So I did both of those, but it was like I was always missing. I don't know, I always felt like I was missing out on something. And it turned out to be sales, which was really funny. So I went into real estate and I got my broker's license, ended up getting my broker's license, and I managed for 17 years. And then I said, okay,
Now
I've
you're
got
going
it.
to do what you
That's
want to
it.
do.
Now I'm going to do what I want to do. So I had to go out and talk somebody into it, believe it or not, to hire me. I can learn, I said. And I just got very lucky because they taught me. They taught me so, they really did. Those people taught me so much. And I just, I was eager to learn it too. So, people laugh at me because I can tell you the color of the pipes on the cruise ship. If I'm looking at it from Fort Lauderdale, who's out in there, I can say that's Holland. I can say that's, I just, because I
Well, it's your
read
passion.
brochures, it's my passion. So I thought, well, you know what, I want to expand because I've been all over Europe and I did riverboating before riverboating was big, in Europe. Took my mother back after my father passed away. So I learned so much and I said, you know what, this is going to be cool. I'm going to learn more about this. So I started calling vendors and I just built that rapport. I'm serious. I just built the rapports up with them, started giving as much business as I had or could.
Yeah.
And for
Now, just
one
so I
person.
understand, a vendor would be like Royal Caribbean,
Royal Caribbean,
Disney, Universal.
Disney,
Okay.
Universal, Hyatt, Apple Vacations, who's, of course, they've been sold, 3 or 4 times, GoGo, all of them. I have access to all of them. Plus, I belong to a consortium called Travel Leaders. So what I tell people, if you go to a resort, if I send you to a resort, if I send you on a cruise, if they have a special that you book right there, you can have that come back to me, the travel agent, or you can do whatever you want with it because you're not forced to. But if you have it come back to me, I'm going to take that and I'm going to go to my consortium and I'm going to look for, so you can keep your onboard credit because they give you, you'll never lose that, whether it's on the cruise ship or in the whatever the vendor is that's giving you the hotel. Give it back to me and I can go to our consortium and look down our voyages, our preferred suppliers, and I can end up getting more onboard credit, more amenities, more something, a free dinner, whatever.
Yeah.
So I tell people, make sure that happens because I'll do that. I'll get you more, onboard credit. I mean, I've got people up to $1,000 on board, credit and, and on ships and dinners at resorts. So it's something I think, people just, regardless, if they trust you or if they think, okay, I think, I'm walking out here, I'm feeling pretty good about, the fact that she's going to try to find something or, that's going to fit with us. And that's where the rapport comes in. And I do have a great repetitive business.
So
I
the
do.
bottom line is don't do it yourself. You do it for
Yeah.
them.
Because I'm a matchmaker, I'm a travel, agent, and I'm also a value, a real value, especially now, I think.
Well,
I love my travel,
I can
passionate
tell.
about it,
I can tell.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate you being with us today.
No, thank you for having
And
me.
I know I've learned a lot,
I hope.
especially about national
Travel.
parks and
The
riverboat.
national park, the river boats,
So-
they're terrific vacations. Calgary, I've done the Albuquerque, the hot air balloon festival. I've done Kentucky Derby. I've done the Super Bowl. There's a whole bunch of I know you just. And that's how I establish the rapport with some of those vendors too. That you've done that specialty stuff. Yeah, you can do anything you want. I mean,
Well, I'll be in touch for my vacation next year. So.
it's crazy. But no, I appreciate you even considering having me on. I
Absolutely.
really appreciate it.
I think our viewers will enjoy this one.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope
Okay.
so.
All right. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Jack.